is called Lady with the Lamp. Rats scurried past Florence's feet. Cracks in the ceiling and walls let in rainwater. Piles of rat droppings let off terrible odors. Insects crawled the floors and walls. And all the soldiers had to sleep on was a platform bed with straw. Some didn't have beds at all. This was a typical war hospital. Florence was upset that the soldiers were being neglected in their hour of need. And staring at the filth, she knew she had to change it. But what she didn't know was that she would not only be changing this war hospital, she would be changing the world. This was Florence Nightingale. Florence grew up as a wealthy and privileged Victorian child. She was born May 12, 1820, on her parents' extended honeymoon of 2 years, touring Europe. She was named after where she was born, Florence, Italy. The Nightingales had 2 massive estates back in England, called Lea Hurst in Derbyshire and Embley Park. Her father had his own library, and her mother entertained very famous artists, musicians, and politicians. In fact, Embley Park, their second home, was originally purchased for the extravagant parties they hosted. But Florence had other interests. She would rather study and read books than party. She was indeed rich. Every morning, a servant came up to her room to dress her and do her hair. She was instructed to do daily exercises and take walks in the park. And wherever she went, she was accompanied by at least one able-bodied man. She was not an only child. She had one sister, Parthenope, also named after Parthenope, Italy, now called Naples, Italy. Florence and Parthenope were very close and hated to be separated. Florence was a daydreamer and loved to pretend her dolls were sick. She would make beds for them and wrap them in cloth, arranging the beds in orderly rows, making precise lists of expenses, needed supplies, and medicines, pretending she was running a sophisticated hospital. Florence was expected to live a leisurely life, doing ladies' activities according to that era, such as sewing, cooking, and eventually marrying. However, at the age of 16, she felt herself called to a higher purpose by God. In 1837, influenza had struck the Nightingale household, and Florence was practically running the house, rising at 4 in the morning to tend her sick family. She was very religious and called upon God very often. And while standing outside of one of her ill family members' door, she was daydreaming about a deep question of hers, what she would do with her life. Deep in thought, in her head, she heard these words spoken to her. Behold, the handmaid of the Lord. He would show Florence the way to do good. Florence confronted her parents about her desire to become a nurse. Her parents were absolutely horrified at the low-class nature of this occupation. They could hardly believe their ears and would not allow her to study nursing. However, in 1847, she traveled to Italy with friends of her parents, Charles and Selina Bracebridge, and then later went on to Egypt and Germany. There in Germany, Florence had the opportunity to visit an orphanage in Kaiserwerth, spending 2 weeks there, learning all she could about hygiene and the practice of nursing. Playing and tending to the children made her more convinced than ever she was meant to be a nurse. And her parents finally saw her passion and tenacity and let her choose her own path. Florence went to Paris, France in 1853 to visit hospitals and poorhouses. She closely observed the work of the doctors and surgeons, gathering every piece of information she could. She asked different hospitals questions and compared the answers to find the best methods, helping educate herself about the world of medicine. That same year, Florence got her first job. Although she wasn't paid, she was happy about this position. She became superintendent of the London's Institution for the Care of Sick Gentlewomen in Distressed Circumstances. It was a place where poor and ill women could go for medical care that otherwise would be hard to get. Florence wasted no time and got busy making improvements. She taught the nurses who worked there alongside her the importance of cleanliness and organization in the hospital. She made sure the patients had good hot meals, and anytime a patient needed care, they could simply ring the bell Florence placed next to their beds. Her diligent work in this hospital set an example for all the nurses, and probably saved the lives of many people. Late March, 1854, Great Britain and France declared war on Russia, along with their ally Turkey. The British Army was fighting in the Crimean War. Shocking reports about the horrible conditions the seriously sick soldiers faced made their way to Britain and Florence. It was also around this time that Florence had done all she could for the women's hospital. It was also heard that most of the soldiers were suffering from a disease called cholera. Of course, as soon as Florence heard of this, she immediately began devising a possible plan to fix it. And when she was asked by the Secretary of War to bring a group of nurses to the military hospital in Scutari, Turkey, she didn't even have to think about it. She was all in. She took fast action, gathering the finest nurses she knew of. She knew that it would be a challenge, but she also knew this is what she trained for. She couldn't let them down. She arrived in Scutari in 1854 with 38 other nurses. Indeed, the reports had described terrible things, but this was way beyond her worst thoughts. Her stomach hurt, she began to get a headache, and the smell was almost as bad as the sight. At first, the doctors refused to have her help, but soon learned that help was desperately needed. So Florence sent her nurses to work. Florence launched an investigation that discovered a big problem. The sewers were not draining properly, and the germs from the sewers were causing the soldiers to get sicker rather than better. Florence had this fixed immediately, and sure enough, the soldiers were getting better. She stressed that good hot meals were served to them, and she ordered basic supplies such as bandages, medicines, cots, soap, and mattresses. She had every inch of the hospital scrubbed clean. She organized the hospital and separated each bed a certain amount so sicknesses would not spread. And sure enough, the soldiers were getting better and better. Florence did not only work during the day, she also served in the night. She walked the dark halls carrying a lamp to see in the night, visiting each soldier, making sure they were comfortable and had everything they needed. She made these rounds every night, nicknaming her the Lady with the Lamp. The Crimean War ended in 1856. Florence returned home and used the valuable knowledge she learned during the war to write reports on how to make hospitals better, especially army hospitals. She even met with Queen Victoria and Prince Albert about her reports and how hospitals could be made cleaner, better, and more efficient. In 1857, a commission was formed to improve army hospitals. Florence Nightingale was their main source. She told them every night. She told them everything she knew. She told the cooks that healthy, hot meals could be healing and could save countless lives. But Florence was getting older. She collapsed and was bedridden, and although she lived many more years, she never fully recovered from this illness. But even in bed, she kept studying medicine. Her goal was to prove overall hospital organization. No detail was too small, no mess was too big, and every patient is as valuable as the next. Many people donated to her cause, and she began the Nightingale Fund in 1860. This money helped start a school in London called the Nightingale Training School in London. The nurses who trained at this school carried Florence's legacy all through the world, and she became widely known. Not only did she change the face of nursing, she changed the world. She died peacefully in her sleep, August 13,